Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. It's Shakespeare here again with you on the 1st of March, 2023. I'm here with Psychic Medium and Remote with Liz Cross. How are you doing today, Liz? How are you?
Oh, very well. You know, it's an early spring here. I'm so happy. Yes, we'll have to mow earlier, but hey, I'm not complaining. If this is what global warming is about, I'm all for it. Seriously, because I don't like the cold. So we have been so privileged to have such great weather this week already.
Okay, so this is a bit of a bonus chart. I know we're doing it. It's just there on the note. There's a whole bunch of charts that we've got to do today, and this one is a bonus one only because Ursula von der Crazy, the head of the European Union, is over in the UK at the moment, and with the arch Remainer Rishi Sunak and apparently the old King Charles they're all trying to plot to get us back into the European Union. So even though we voted to leave, that was not the correct vote. So they're doing everything by the back door. So Brexit is something we're going to keep an eye on over the following months. So I've managed to find all the natal data, so that's quite easy, really. We have monthly charts, so this is not a monetary prediction or anything like that. It's just, how is Brexit going? So Liz, I've got you on the screen, or you've got on the screen there, you can see Brexit through Wikipedia. It's as good as any, I suppose. Can you grab it? Can you grab it as an entity?
Yeah, I can grab Brexit as an entity, no problem. I didn't know that Sunak was a Remainer.
Oh yeah, of course he is. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a Remainer. I mean, bear in mind, he doesn't really care what happens. He's a multi-millionaire through his wife, so I think the plan here is they'll sacrifice the Tory party and his leadership, everybody, and then he'll just go and work in America or something. So he's definitely not to be trusted. So Brexit is, as an entity, can you take Brexit out till the end of the month, please, as an entity?
Yeah, let's go March 31st, 2023, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. What is so interesting, the first thing that came through is it's really depressed and sad. As an entity, it still has feelings, even though it doesn't have a soul or a body. It's very sad. It's very disappointed. As a whole, it's not going well.
Well, no, it's because everybody, the British establishment and the European establishment are doing everything they can to reverse it. They never wanted Brexit. So City of London might have done, money side of it might have done, but the establishment didn't. So, they want us all back into the greater communist state of the European Union. So, okay, so as far as this month is concerned, March 2023, let's see if we can pick out some, high points or low points. We're starting off at a low then? Okay, so if we're starting off on a low now, can you put Brexit out till the end, or have you already done that?
Yeah, okay. It's out there.
All right, so what would be, say, the high point of this month?
What would be the high point of this month? Now, there's a couple of things that are going to be reversed. Okay. I feel like the biggest thing is to do with farmers. That's coming through very strongly. Farmers and currency. And I don't know what that means exactly. You probably know because you follow it. But farmers are jumping ship, right? They're not supported by the British government. They are really struggling. They've got no help or guidance. Now, this is interesting to me because a country as a whole, and I always wondered this about the UK when I lived there. This is bringing back painful memories of Why would you want to outsource all of your food to other countries when you are capable of growing it on your own soil? I don't understand that. I remember when Tesco's and Sainsbury's and all these big supermarkets, for those of you who are not in the UK, you won't really understand what these places are, but they were buying up the farmland in Africa to farm and bring in, these fruit and vegetables. And it's just like, again, farmers are being cut a raw deal on their own soil. And I feel like this has a lot to do with farming.
Well, yeah, but don't forget the overarching plan is the reduction of food gradually over time, with the resultant price increase. So it's just a way of they're doing everything they can. This is how they operate. I mean, this is what they do.
Why would the reduction in food, just from your opinion, okay? This is not a scientific fact, but from your opinion, Mr. Shakespeare, from all the stuff that you read and you keep up with, why would a reduction in food promote, what does that do? What does that do for the country?
Well, they don't really care what it does for the country. What it does for the people is make them more compliant. Yeah, if you have no food and then suddenly the government says, look, we'll give you food, but you have to vote this way. In very simple terms, that's basically what they're trying to do. They're reducing food, they're reducing all sorts of stuff. So, it's all about compliance and control. This is what these people are doing.
And what this is bringing back something else too, which is last week, because I still have, loads of friends on Facebook from the police, actually, when I worked for the police, and I saw some of the people posting, well, went to the supermarket, there's no food on the shelves. So you guys are still experiencing food shortages over there, and I don't know why.
By design. You have the same problem in the US. You've had many egg production plants go up and food production plants mysteriously catch fire. Some of them, one of them might have been real. Look, if you take away the supply of something, the price goes up, which makes it more unaffordable for most people. And obviously, if you reduce the supply, then less of it is to go around. The market will always correct the price. And they know this. They take away the food, the price of food will go up. That means that some people won't be able to afford it, maybe on the lower end of the pay scale. At the end of the day, they have the same vote as the seriously rich. And if the government come in and say, look, yes, it's really bad, but we can help you. Yeah. You remember what Ronald Reagan said, the most scariest words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Well, that's the kind of thing that they'll be doing. That's what they're trying to do. This is all part of their agenda. Why do they want us back into the European Union? Well, because it's communist, isn't it? I mean, these are Marxist and communist ideals. So, how do they have to do it on a very slow burn. They cut the food, they cut this, they cut that, they put the price of energy up. The price of energy has gone through the roof and there's no reason for it. It was their sanctions on Russia. Russia didn't sanction them. So all of these things are designed to take money out of the pocket. I mean, people now are spending, and it has a cumulative effect. You then don't buy your new car, you don't buy that new television that you thought you wanted because you're paying bills, you're paying utility, you're paying all sorts of things. It's all part of the plan. This is what they're doing.
So, do you believe, from a Brexit standpoint, do you believe? Well, we can ask Brexit itself. Let's ask Brexit. Brexit, do you believe that by making the farmers struggle so badly that this will get people to comply and reverse? Yes, that's what they're trying to do. That's what it just told me. That's what they're trying to do. Because I'm like, why are the farmers struggling? Why would you not subsidize? Why would you not help your farmers? Why, you know what I mean? You have to have food for your population. And that is exactly what Brexit gave back as an entity, its own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions. That's what it gave back. If you make the farmers go out of business, you make them struggle, you can reverse parts of Brexit where then you become dependent upon France, Spain, Italy, other nations to be that food source. And slowly over time, you will then reverse Brexit. I see what you mean. Oh, yeah, we've left the European Union, but actually, slowly over time, we're going to start reversing things. And then it'll be like we never left anyway. Oh, my God. Like that.
I think the plan, they won't reverse the vote. What they'll do is they'll make it very so that we're de facto in the European Union. And then after a couple of years, they'll say, well, look, we might as well just go back in because we're doing everything, I mean, that's how they'll do it on a slow burn. Unless people sort of rise up and stop and say, no, we're not putting up with this. But where is our Margaret Thatcher? Where is our strong, determined conservative leader? Because
Don't say Thatcher. Don't say Thatcher. People hate Thatcher. They hate her.
But okay, but she was a good leader for the UK. She wasn't good for European Union, and that's what did for her in the end. I mean, yes, there were things with unions, and she wasn't perfect, but she knew what the European Union was all about. I mean, she was very switched on to that. Yeah, the British people voted to get out of the European Union. Okay, and that's not really being respected, but we don't have a strong leader. Where is our strong leader? None of the current crop. The Tory party will disintegrate over this. Sunak won't care. He'll send it down the pan. He doesn't care. He's a multi-millionaire. He doesn't mind. He'll go and work for a US bank or something, which is where he came from. Keir Starmer, who's a complete globalist, a complete Marxist, he'll do what he's told. Labour will get back in power, and it'll just be it'll be back into the EU again. That's the problem. That's what they're trying to do. So there's going to be a slow burn on food, on energy, on all sorts of things. The rich, look, at the end of the day, they will be able to pay for anything. It doesn't matter if tomatoes go from, £2 a kilo to £6 a kilo. It doesn't matter. They can afford to pay it. It's only the poor and the middle class, but they all have one vote. And at the end of the day, if it gets to the point where they are getting hungry and there's a problem, they're more compliant. Yeah, you starve people, you find out how compliant they are. Let's just hope
that is true. That is true. You starve people.
The French Revolution. The thing they've got to watch out for is the French Revolution. Most people don't know this, but the French Revolution was not started by the men. It was started by the women. So they did this to the people in France. They first of all put the men out of work. Next thing they made food and everything very hard to get for the women, for the families. So they were starving them that way. And the third thing, which finally tipped the women over, is when they couldn't feed their children. When they couldn't feed their children, that's what started the French Revolution. And that's where it all started from. And did they have guns? No, they had knives. So that's why there was a lot of crime with knives, and it was women doing it. Then the men joined in. And then, of course, we get Mr. Guillotine and all that lot. And that's how the establishment got toppled. That's the thing the deep state and the establishment are worried about. They don't want that. So they'll do it very, very slowly. And, that's so people, it's like slowly boiling a frog. You don't really notice it's happening,
Wow.
And most people are so compliant. They watch TV, mindless dross there. They don't really know what's going on because they don't pay attention, so people can do this,
But even if they're watching the mainstream news,
they will not find out any of it.
Yeah, exactly. They still won't find out. They won't know. They won't know. That's what's so astonishing. You think that by watching the news, you will know, and you won't, which is why especially over the period that we've just had where everybody was locked indoors and, more people are seeking out alternative sources of information on a more spiritual or psychic level, simply because they've had time to actually absorb what is going on and the fact that, they can't trust anything anymore. That's what it's amazing. I couldn't believe that answer when we got it, you know, which is, oh yeah, we'll just reverse a little bit here and reverse a little bit there, and then it's like we've never left, but we'll still say that we left. Wow. Wow. Well, that is interesting. And do you have a chart to coincide with this?
I do have a chart.
Oh, you do. I knew it. I must be psychic. You have a chart. Oh, you just couldn't resist this one. You know, this video may upset a lot of people, though. A lot of people were all for remaining in the European Union. And, you know, there are lots of different reasons for each side. You know, at the end of the day, what happens is going to happen. There's nothing really anybody can do about it. I know
the
that
only thing that most people care about the European Union is freedom of travel and movement, and free movement of goods without all the customs, you know, and that those two are the benefits that they offer, and they are benefits, you know, not having to go through borders and all of that nonsense and customs regulations and, you know, goods going from one country to another. That's easy. You know, if you are a Spanish producer of oranges and you want to sell your oranges or send them to the Netherlands, Holland, no problem. Right. If you want to send them to the UK, right, that now needs custom clearance and forms and everything else, you know, movement as well. You know, you don't have the right in the same way as you have the right to reside anywhere in the EU. You do not have the right to reside anywhere in the EU now if you're an English, you know, UK. So those two things are, you know, that's what most people were concerned about. That's because it affected them. You know, I want to go to Spain on holiday. I want to go to Germany on holiday. I want to go to Italy skiing or whatever. I don't want all this other nonsense. I mean, that's the advantage of, you know, the borderless and free trade. But of course, as Thatcher said, bring her up again, we could have had all of that. We don't have to have anything else. There is no, you know, but the EU have become all powerful, and yet they're unelected at the commission level, you know. So, you know, they're a globalist organization. So
it's a problem. You know, when I was in law school over in the UK, you know, I was studying to be a barrister, and I did extensive European law. And lots of my peers, you know, my mates at school were heading in that direction. Why? Because it was an easy way to make money. If you are in European business law, it was just so easy. And yet when you started to learn about how these people were put in there, the fact that nobody's elected, it becomes more and more, you know, exposure to a very potentially corrupt system at that time. Now, you talking about Thatcher may get us banned off YouTube. I don't know. She's probably a key buzzword that they hit the delete button. You know, my parents, who are British, they love Thatcher. Why? Because they weren't in the UK when Thatcher was in power. So they could love Thatcher from afar. But I remember when Thatcher was in power, my parents were having to send, you know, good parcels over to my grandparents at that time of loo rolls and paper towels, because there were so many loo roll factory strikes, right? Nobody could get any loo roll. So my parents would have to send, you know, boxes of loo roll, and my gran was like the most popular person on the street because she had loo roll and everybody wanted loo roll. Well, what they all forgot was, back in the day, what did people use in place of loo roll? They cut up newspaper, right? But it was just
please. Okay, I don't remember. I mean, I lived through all of that. I don't remember the shortage of toilet paper. So it must have been very specific to where your grandparents were. There was no general.
They were up north.
You know, I mean, bear in mind, you know, she came to power and there were 3-day weeks. There were blackouts. The miners were on strike. The tax was at 90%. You know, the British Leyland workers went on strike every other minute. You know, I mean, you know, there were a lot of, you know, problems in the UK at the time. And yes, did she fix all of them? Yes. Did she go heavy-handed with certain ones? The miners? Yes, she did. You know, and all of that lot. I mean, yeah, she went overboard. But, you know, She stood up for Britain. She put Britain first. So
Well, that
she's
she did.
no
That she
globalist.
did.
She was no globalist. She cared about Britain.
Well, and I understand. And if anybody wants to sort of reference that time period, again, I'm going to tell you to go back to The Crown, the series The Crown, and look at what happened during Thatcher's period and how there was a lot of friction between the royal family and Thatcher and how it really divided North and South. My family originate from the northern part of it's actually Midlands, but it's still considered, at that time, northern compared to what was going on down in the South. But I mean, there was a lot of other things that she did that wasn't agreeable to, which wasn't it the poll tax, and that was bad. That was bad. But
well,
hey,
the poll tax
nobody's
was
perfect.
bad because it taxed the individual, whereas the rating system taxes the property. And if you live in a council flat or a social housing or you rent, then you don't have to pay any of those taxes, you see. And so she had this idea that every individual should pay a tax for their environment. Well, obviously if you're used to not paying a tax, then you don't like that. And yet on the other hand, there were little old ladies living in big houses who suddenly had their rates, which was the forerunner to poll tax, go down by 80% because they are living on their own. So there's only one person. Nobody likes paying tax. I mean, at the moment in the US you have property tax. If you're lucky enough to live in California or one of these high tax districts, you can pay $20 or $30 or $40,000 a year. God knows why, but that's what you can do. So, that's on the property. Now we've gone back to the same system as we had prior, which is basically the property owner. Or in the case of renters, they pay sometimes you can get the renters to pay, but it's a tax on owning the property, which therefore proves you don't really own the property because you have to pay tax on it. Anyway, Liz, we need to wrap this one up. We have so many to do. And time is going on and on and on.
I know, but it's a bit of a history lesson.
Brexit, there's your high point, so we're in a bit of a doldrum at the moment, and we've got a bit of a high point mid-March.
Yeah.
And then we've got a little dip, and then we go on.
But so what you don't have is, now that Brexit is seemingly over, you don't have people that are still pro-Brexit coming forward and making sure that Brexit stays in play, right? So when
okay, Liz, all right, let's go down this road even further. We'll only do the 2 videos today. So problem we've got is this. Okay, so imagine you're married, aren't you? Well, imagine you got married and then 7 months later, 7 years later, or a few years later, somebody tries to undo that. You think, you believe, you thought that a deal's a deal. You voted for it. Most people voted. I heard they had to fiddle the numbers. It was actually a much higher number for Brexit, but they made it so that the Brexiteers just won. But I actually heard it was higher, so they fiddled the numbers. And so the majority of people wanted to leave the European Union, not Europe, just the EU. Okay, they don't want to leave Europe. They just want to leave the EU, which is a construct. It's a legal construct. They wanted out of that, and they thought once they'd voted to be out, that was out. Yeah, imagine playing a football match, a soccer match, and it was 2-0 to one team, and at the end of the match, no, that's not, no, we have to change that. This is the point. This is what, and people didn't think and don't think that out means out. They don't realize that these globalists are trying to do everything they can to de facto change what they voted. Yeah. So this is the problem. People need to wake up to the fact that, there are people out there, who are doing everything they can to reverse Brexit. So all of these things, they're going to, slowly creep it back in. This is what they do.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm still married, so
Yeah, but imagine if somebody who tried to undo that marriage and said, "No, you're not married. No, no, I know you did it. I know you went through the ceremony, but you're not married. Look, we're going to point to clause B, clause B, subsection 3 or something.
clause B of
This is it. Exactly. How would you feel? How would anybody feel? You passed your driving test. No, you didn't. No, you haven't. No, you didn't. No, you've got to do that again. No, we've got to do that. This is the point. The problem is that they are scouting and skirting and doing everything they can to get round what people thought they'd agreed with, and the rule of law. It doesn't mean anything.
Oh my God, they're politicians. All right. Well, this was a great video. Very entertaining. At least I was entertained, and I know you were. So we'll probably get loads of hate comments on this one, but who cares at this point? All right, folks. Well, there you go. There's your chart on Brexit. And we'll go on to the next one. Thank you.